Hey guys, and welcome to another GameXplain discussion. I'm your host, Eric Bittner, and I'm joined today by Andre Seegers to discuss his recent playtime with the new 3DS XL and a bunch of games, including Majora's Mask 3D. So Andre, how was it?
Yeah, so Nintendo had a pretty big event in San Francisco. It was basically an all-day thing where they had a ton of new 3DS XLs all over the place with a giant selection of games. Now, not all those games were new, which was interesting. They had a fair amount of new ones there, but they also had a lot of older games as well. To demonstrate how the new 3DS works with the older games. Now, of course, I've had a new 3DS for a while, being the Japanese one, so this wasn't news to me or probably to a lot of our fans. But it was still cool to go back and play, a lot of those older games, because, being a Japanese 3DS I haven't been able to test it with too many things, since I don't have many Japanese games. So I tried, Luigi's Mansion, and it worked great, with the 3D screen now, how it can track your movement. Otherwise it's the exact same game. So the other games I got to play, though, in addition to Majora's Mask, were Xenoblade Chronicles, the Monster Hunter demo, Ironfall Invasion, Ace Combat, the Legacy Plus game, and a bit more of Codename STEAM, including the amiibo support. Or actually, I got to test that with Ace Combat as well. So overall impressions of the system, playing with a bunch of games, especially ones designed specifically for it, it's good. The system works well. As I expected from the normal new 3DS I was playing with before the Japanese one. Yeah, I mean everything seems pretty competent so far.
So I'm sure everybody is dying to know, what'd you think of Majora's Mask 3D?
Okay, so I love Majora's Mask, and this game looks really good. I've said before, I said in our discussion earlier when they showed off the Majora's Mask DLC for Hyrule Warriors, I'm like, oh man, why wasn't Majora's Mask made on the Wii U instead? With that said, playing the game, it actually really does look great on the 3DS. They updated it in a very similar way to Ocarina of Time 3D, but it feels like they even took it a few steps further this time, and that could just be maybe my memory playing tricks on me, but it feels like some of the areas, for instance, like the swamp, just looks great now. It's almost hard to tell sometimes where you are in relation to the original game, because the visuals are that much upgraded. Yeah, the game looks great, the 3D looks fantastic, and they've implemented some new features into the game that work well so far, based on what I've played, which isn't much, so...
Yeah, I guess the big new feature when it comes to the Majora's Mask on the new 3DS is the C-stick control, where you get full 360-degree movement. Is that a big upgrade to you, or is it just sort of whatever?
It's not a huge upgrade. I mean, it's handy, but you could already you already had some loose camera control on Ocarina of Time by moving the gyroscope around, by moving the 3DS around. So it's nice to have. I don't think it's necessary. Majora's Mask never really had any camera problems originally, but it's cool that it's there. It's a good feature, and that's something we've seen a lot in these new 3DS games, like Xenoblade Chronicles. The C-stick is used for camera control. I mean, which makes sense. The C-stick that's what the C stands for. That's what a lot of games are using it for.
Yeah. Okay. So what did you get to play of Majora's Mask 3D? Did you get to see any of the new features, or how some of these systems work that we've seen them talk about in the past? Yeah,
so far I've stuck around mostly. It's been mostly the opening hours of the game. So some of the new features I got to see, of course, with the C-stick. I also got to see the Bomber's Notebook now, and some of its upgrades, and how now it'll tell you what task you're currently on, and it'll tell you what steps you've already taken in that task, which is nice. And then if you go to, there's a character screen as well, which when you access it, it'll show you all the characters you've come across, you've met so far in the game. And you can now set alarms for a particular character. So if there's a reminder of, if you want to remind yourself to meet a character at a specific time, you can now set that. You just go to their timeline, place the alarm on whatever hour you want to set it to, and when that comes up, the fairy will remind you of their, she's like, hey, there's something you need to go check out now. You set that alarm, remember? So I've noticed a few other tweaks too. Like in Clocktown, they've actually moved a few things around. Like some of the bomber notebook kids, or some of the bombers, I guess, whatever those kids are called, they're in different locations now, or a few of them are. They're not all in the same from before, if I remember correctly. And then also the bank. The bank dude, he used to be off in a side alley kind of town. Now they threw him right into the main central area. So just making it a little bit more accessible, just a little bit easier to get to. Since he is someone you will want to come across, you will want to interact with several times throughout the game.
Yeah, it seems like it goes along that whole idea that they want to upgrade the game and make it a little bit more accessible without losing that core value of it being a feeling like Majora's Mask.
Right.
And I mean, I know you only got to play a little bit at this event. Does it still feel like Majora's Mask despite these changes?
Oh, it totally does. I mean, so far, I mean, it is absolutely still Majora's Mask. Very, a way a lot of people like to say it is like with Ocarina of Time 3D is when you play that game, it looks as how you remember it, which is you tend to remember it looking a lot better than it did originally. In my case, I'm so familiar with Majora's Mask, I do notice a huge step up in visuals. But yeah, absolutely so far, unmistakably Majora's Mask. Seems very true to the original game. I haven't fully explored all the tweaks yet, of course. I just came across the fishing pond and didn't have enough rupees to actually partake in the fishing, so that's something we'll be exploring more in an upcoming preview, where we'll be able to explore the game more in depth, because we actually do have the game now. We got the new 3DS, we got the game, so we will be talking about this more in about a week or so, I think, is when we can post a really in-depth preview. So
now you're just taunting everybody, letting them know that you actually have the game already. That's just cruel.
I know, I'm sorry.
No, it's really good. I guess, so one of the other things we talked about before getting the hands on the game is the new save system and what it'll be like and how if it'll maintain how it was before or if it'll be a little bit more permanent or, how it'll actually play out.
Right.
And I'm guessing I'm assuming you have to save your game at some point. What have you noticed about that?
So, so I've only come across a couple of owl statues so far. I haven't come across any of the, or at the event, I didn't come across any of the feather statues. But, with that said, the owl statues now allow you to save immediately and at any time. And whereas before they would function as basically a suspend, what's it called, a suspend state, where, once you resume from that point, you had to keep going. Like, you couldn't reset back to that point you just started at. This time you can. So now it can effectively act as an undo button. You can undo. You can basically, like, if you screw up royally, you can go back to your last save and restart from there if you want.
Does that feel off to you at all, or because I know you were worried?
It's too early to say. I've had my hesitations before, so we'll see. It's too early to say. I don't know yet, so we'll save that for maybe the preview or the review.
There you go. So yeah, it sounds like you're enjoying it, but let's move on to the other games that you got to play.
Yeah.
I guess the next big one really is Xenoblade Chronicles 3D.
I mean, almost literally, that world's huge, right?
Yeah, it really is. I mean, as you said, the game is huge. It can only be played on the new 3DS XL, so that's kind of almost a must-buy for fans of that game or people who are interested in trying it out. And this was the English version, I'm assuming, that you were playing.
It was, yeah. They were speaking English and everything.
So it is the port. And so I know you haven't played much of the original. I think you only did a Game & Watch for it originally when it first came out. So what'd you think?
I mean, it's an RPG. I'm not the biggest RPG guy. It seemed fine. Like, it seemed totally competent. It ran well. The 3D looks great. It's a really deep 3D, and which is what you want in a world like this. It is kind of similar to Ocarina of Time, like it's that level of depth, and it makes this world just seem really expansive. It looked good, like I didn't notice any step down from the Wii version. If anything, it's a step up because of the 3D. Maybe my only complaint I can think of, just going purely off a technical basis, since I don't know how the game was originally, it's not really making use of that second screen too much. Like, it displays like some information on your teammates, for instance, but you can't interact with it in any way. You can't, there's no menus or touchscreen interaction at all. It's just purely a simple display. So
okay, so not really expanding upon that as much. How is it run? Is it a smooth frame rate? There's no hiccups or anything?
It seemed to run pretty well. I didn't notice any major hiccups or anything. I wasn't really on the lookout for it either, but it seemed to run well. And even with me messing around with the new full 3D camera controls, I don't know if Xenoblade had that originally, but you can rotate the camera on the new 3DS, and I mean, like, I was zooming in and out flawlessly, no slowdown as far as I could tell. So
okay.
And I did ask too. This is really literally the same game. Like, they are adding, beyond the things I just mentioned, they aren't really adding anything new, like no new story elements or anything.
It's just Xenoblade Chronicles on the go in 3D,
right? Yeah.
Which is not a bad thing, honestly. It's such a huge game. Like I'd almost cringe at the thought of them having even more content in there that people that might not even get to.
Yeah, right.
So I mean, it's really impressive, especially as we've said many times at this point, just how big that game was on the Wii. Them fit that all into the 3DS version of it, even if it does require the new 3DS, is quite impressive. I did see some people sort of like when they showed it off during the Direct say that the game doesn't look that great, but I have a feeling that's because it's blown up onto a screen, you're on your television screen, and 3DS games never quite look as good on your computer as they do when you're actually playing it on the 3DS. And I'm guessing that's the case for you for this as well, right?
It seemed to be. I mean, it's always hard to tell at events, but I didn't notice any problems with it while I was playing it, so no.
Okay. So what else did you get to play?
So I played around with Monster Hunter. Not a big Monster Hunter guy, but it was pretty fun. I was like chasing a dinosaur halfway across the map, and finally took him down. That was pretty cool. Again, camera controls in that game on the new 3DS. It looks good though. Like it ran well. It looked good. That's another game with a big world. What really surprised me, actually, moving off Monster Hunter, is a game called Ironfall Invasion. I think it was shown off a little bit in the Direct. I got to play it. It's apparently it's a third-person shooter, very much in the vein of Gears of War, done by apparently a 3-man team in France. And you would not know it because the production values are like amazing, given the platform it's on. Like it's super, like it ran well. The controls felt good. Like it's really like you can take cover, you can peek out from cover, and it even has like an active reload like Gears of War does. So it felt, and that's a mechanic I've always really enjoyed, where like you have to time your reload properly to reload faster. And yeah, it worked well here. It has like full voice acting, it has cinematics. It seemed really impressive, actually.
Oh, really? Wow.
Yeah.
I know it didn't. I saw that game during the Direct, and I know they put a little special spotlight on it, but it still didn't stick out to me. Of course, we were busy as all hell during that, so that might have had a little bit to do with it. But it is nice to see that this is a very different genre on the 3DS that does work well. Oh
yeah, especially that actually gave us a good look at how the C-Stick works too with shooters, and it worked pretty well. I wouldn't say it's not as great as having like a second control stick, but it does take something they used to. But, the C-Stick worked pretty well for aiming in a fast-paced action game, so that is something that's good to see. Now, another feature I gotta see made use of on the new 3DS was amiibo support in Ace Combat and in Codename STEAM. And they even had an Ike amiibo there, too, I was able to play with for Codename STEAM. So in Ace Combat, though, you can scan in some amiibo, like a Peach one, for instance, to unlock these special, decals or planes, basically, or special versions of planes. And so I have a video of one of them. I've got a video of the Peach one. You can also unlock those, at least most of them, I think, by finding question marks in the environment, or question blocks, and then completing the mission, and you can unlock them that way. So it's not a huge deal, but it's kind of neat to see. It doesn't need a little extra feature there for this Plus version of the game. Codename STEAM, though, is what really, is what's really playing with the amiibo far more, where you can now scan in, a different Fire Emblem amiibo. Like at the event, I was only able to try Marth and Ike. Scan them in, and you get full characters based on them with their own inventory, and they're pretty awesome. like one of Ike's, I think Ike's finishing move. You have these special moves you can use in Codename STEAM, and using his, it's like his recovery from Smash Brothers. I forget what that one's called. It's from the Fire Emblem games too, but it's pretty awesome to see that, just jump into the air and land on an enemy with a sword, just effectively destroying them. So.
That is awesome. That is I know the Marth amiibo was already just so rare at this point, and now they actually have a really compelling reason to have it. It's like, guys, you're killing us here.
Right, exactly.
I guess you didn't get to see too much more of the game beyond the amiibo support for Codename STEAM, correct?
I actually played through a whole other first mission, too, of Codename STEAM. Previously, we had seen missions 2 and 3, if I remember correctly. I got played through the first one, which is more of a tutorial. So really not too much to say about it, but it does give you a good introduction to the game. And I gotta say, the more I play this game, the more I do like it. It is doing something pretty different for the most part, and it's fun. It combines these two different types of gameplay into one, shooter and turn-based strategy, and it works well so far. So I think having the Fire Emblem characters is a brilliant idea. Both another way tying in the amiibo, as well as giving this game there's some kind of recognition, I think. People will be like, hey, the Fire Emblem characters, I know them.
Well, they're already attempting that with the pre-order bonus for GameStop. If you pre-order Codename STEAM, you get that Majora's Mask pendant or whatever.
That's true. That's right. Actually, yeah, they're doing all kinds of cross-branding with this game.
Yeah, they really want to push it, which is good because I've been a champion of this game as soon as I saw it, but I can't get anybody else to get into it. So it's nice to see that you are getting into it, and slowly as you play it, it's kind of clicking with you, and you are enjoying it. Alright guys, well I think that about covers it for our hands-on preview of the new 3DS XL and its games. So thank you guys for watching, and if you like this video, be sure to like us on Facebook and Twitter at GameXplain. And of course, stay tuned to GameXplain for more on Majora's Mask and other things gaming too. Until next time guys, bye.